Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, and today I have a palette recommendation tag for you. I absolutely adore eyeshadow palettes, and I thought it was high time to bank in on that on my YouTube channel and do a little bit more about with eyeshadow palettes and to show you my favorites. And I thought, what better way to kickstart a hopefully future palette series by just going over my main recommendations. And there's been this tag that has been going around, and I thought, hey, those 10 questions can really allow me to show all of my favorite palettes in one go. So that's what I will be doing for you today. So here is my palette recommendation tag. The first question in this tag is, what palette would you recommend to beginners? So let's say you're an absolute noob to makeup and you really want to see, okay, where do I start when it comes to eyeshadow? I would say this. This is the Tartelette in Bloom by Tarte. I love this because it just gives you enough variety to play around with, but the eyeshadows are of such great quality that, you know, you could just make it work even if you're a beginner. This is what the palette looks like. You pretty much have 4 quads as well, so that makes it very sort of foolproof to apply. So you have your row of neutrals here, like cool tone neutrals, and then you have your warmer tones at the bottom, and then here you have your more like neutral neutrals. There are a couple of shimmers in here, but most of it is matte. You've got a couple of good dark shades, you've got a couple of good light shades, you've got medium shades, crease shades. This palette just does it all. The second question is, what would you recommend from the drugstore? So my favorite drugstore eyeshadow palette would be this. This is the Milani Everyday Eyes Earthy Elements eyeshadow palette. It's a very warm tone palette, but it's very, very shiny. And I really like how these eyeshadows play together. The quality is absolutely there. This palette is a little bit more expensive than most palettes at the drugstore. I think this goes for around 12 or 13 euros, and you can definitely get this online, but it's got a good shimmery highlight. You've got a good medium, like, crease shade. You've got this interesting orangey shade, which I think is just great. And you've got these like deeper tones here as well, and a good medium shade to blend things out. The third question then, and that is what palette you would recommend for work or school, and to me that would be the Naked 3. I could pretty much fill in this eyeshadow palette for every question in this tag, apart from the drugstore ones, because this is my absolute favorite eyeshadow palette ever. If I don't know what to do with my eye makeup look, this is what I grab for. It is very neutral, and to me this is just perfect for a work or school makeup look. So if you work in an office, you can't get away with too bright makeup. Like, I would wear something like this to work, what I'm wearing right now, with like blues and greens. But if that's not your cup of tea, or if that's something that doesn't work with the dress code at work, then I think that this will pretty much get you everything you need. For the fourth question in this tag, it is to show you a palette that I think is a great way to work in color yet still be neutral at the same time. I couldn't pick just one. In fact, I have 2 affordable options in here, and I've got 2 higher end options. I think that if you want to work in color into a look, that Sleek is a brand to really keep an eye on, because they have a lot of colorful palettes that aren't too crazy. And this is one of my more recent favorites, and this is the Sunset palettes. You've got a couple of warm tones, you even have a blue in here, but the bottom row is exceptionally neutral, so you can just like play around with these neutrals right here at the bottom, pick one of those more colorful shades at the top, and you have a really nice look. And these are very affordable too. I think these retail for about 10 euros or something like that. I think that another great palette to allow to play around with color but still be neutral is the Lorac Pro 2, simply because you have this like olive green here, you've got a navy and a purple, and I think that if you want to apply color to your eyes and still be neutral, that these are very safe colors to play around with. I know this palette isn't necessarily everyone's favorite, but I absolutely love this. This was the first Lorac palette that I actually bought because it has everything that I want, and I like applying a purple or a blue because it's something that goes really well with my eye color. But that's another question in this tag, so we'll get to that in a minute. Another palette that I think is a great way to play around with color and still be neutral at the same time is this, and this is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. And when I show you this, you will know what I mean. This has some really crazy pink shades in it, but I found that you can still work these into a look and still be very neutral because there are so many other neutral shades in this palette. I know that some people don't really like Too Faced putting in these wacky colors, but I think it makes for a neutral palette with a twist. So this is another high-end palette that I think can do that for you. On the more affordable side, I think that looking into some of the Zoeva palettes is a great way to do that as well. This is still very neutral because it has mostly brown shades, but it does have this fun orange in the middle. This is the Caramel Melange, but I think that the Cocoa Blend, Rose Golden, On Taupe, the Blanc one, they have a new matte palette, which is really great too. I think that that's a great way to sort of play around with color and neutrals at the same time. So the next question is biggest bang for your buck, and I already showed you the two brands that I would want to recommend for that you want to look into if you're looking for an affordable eyeshadow palette that still gives you great quality. I think Sleek is really great. They are a little bit more powdery, but I find these work really, really well. And then Zoeva is my other favorite, like affordable, yet still great quality eyeshadow palette. I just selected two of my favorites from this brand. This is the Sleek Nautical Collection palette, Calm Before the Storm. And it's got these nice neutrals and some greens and blues. I also wanted to show you this. This is the On the Horizon palette. And one thing that I love about Sleek is that they do a lot of fun pops of color in their palettes. If you get one Zoeva palette, I would say go for the Cocoa Blend. I think that the Cocoa Blend palette is probably the best if you're looking into Zoeva for the first time, because it just has a very nice range of shades. It's got a good neutral matte. It's got a very nice dark brown here as well. You've got some medium colors. You got this fun cranberry shade that you get here. This palette can pretty much do it all for you. However, Zoeva continuously, like Sleek, brings out new palettes, and they just released this. This is the Matte palette, or Urban Matte, I think it's called. And this is what that looks like. So this is an all matte palette, and again, I think that this is a really great matte palette. It has a really fun red shade, which is pretty much the reason why I bought it, I'm not gonna lie. So the next question is what eyeshadow palette you would recommend for your skin tone. I'm a very fair-skinned kind of girl. I have a very neutral to cool undertone, which means that cool tones and neutral tones is what suit me best when it comes to my complexion. The Urban Decay Naked 2 palette was my favorite until the Naked 3 was released for a very good reason. It is very, very cool toned. And I really, really liked using these shades in the middle right here. I use this a ton. I still use this from time to time. It's absolutely foolproof if you have a cool undertone. However, my more recent favorite is the Lorac Pro 3. This palette has been given so much slack. However, if you are anything medium, tan, deep, this won't work for you. If you're very, very fair, this is the eyeshadow palette of your dreams. It's got hardly any super duper dark shades, but it does give you a couple to really create some depth in looks. But it has a really, really nice array of like matte neutrals that are medium tone that on my skin tone just work really, really well. All of these shimmery shades work like a dream as well. You have a bit of a purple here to play with to add a little bit of color, but this is great if you are fair-skinned. The next question is what eyeshadow palette you would recommend for your eye color. I have brown eyes with a touch of something green, and it really depends on how the light hits my eyes, but also what eye makeup I'm wearing, how you actually see my eye color. Because the main sort of look I get out of my eyes is brown, I can get away with everything. I would say if I really want to amp up the brownness of my eyes, I go for the Naked 1. This is a very bronzy, brown-toned eyeshadow palette, and I love wearing this, especially in the summertime, because in the winter, as I get very, very pale, I think this gives too much of a contrast, and my eyes kind of like sink down into my skull because it's a bit too dark. But playing around with brown tones on brown eyes can really nicely sort of enhance the deepness of your eye color. If you want to play around with a little bit of contrast, if you have brown eyes, then purples and teals and also navy blues can work really well. I have a couple of my favorite shades in this Inglot palette. I'm not entirely sure on the names of the colors here, but I have this matte teal, which is stunning if I want to really amp up the brownness and really sort of create a contrast. as well as this purple, which is also a great one there. An eyeshadow palette that I think works really well with my eyes is this one. This is the Stila Eyes Are the Window of the Spirit palette. So this has Kitten and all those shades. It's got some warm tones, but also some cool tones. I love this for a smoky eye, this gray here in the bottom. I think that these type of grays work best on my eye color to create a smoky eye. If I want to make my eyes look a little bit more green, then I play with this one. And this is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. These reddish tones and this pink right here, if you have green eyes or if you have brown eyes with a hint of green, that definitely plays it up. Purples do that in general as well for me. Because I also wanted to show you a more affordable option, I thought I'd show you this as well. This is the I Heart Makeup Chocolate Vice palette, and I think this works really, really well with my eye color as well. It has all of the bronzes and browns that I love so much from the Naked One, but it also has this like dark gray that I love from the Stila. It has these like peachy reddish shades in the bottom that I like in the Modern Renaissance, so this palette kind of does it all for me. The 8th question is, what is your best all-in-one palette? And I don't really have one palette that can do everything when it comes to like face and eyes and all that. And to be quite honest, I'm not into that at all either. But I was thinking, when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, what palette do I own that will take me from day to night, colorful shimmers, mattes, crease colors, and it's this. Which is, I think, cheating because I built this myself. But this is my MAC palette, and I just collected these over the years, and this is what it looks like. I've got all of my neutral shades at the top here. I've got some brow bone shades, some inner corner highlights that I love. All of my medium shimmers are here, so if I want to do like a one eyeshadow look, I can get that out of it. These are all of my favorite matte crease shades and blending shades, and then if I flip this over, so I don't blind you, I've got all of my favorite colorful ones in this row. I've got my favorite like shimmers in this row. And then I've got all of my deeper, darker, more smoky colors in the bottom rows. So the 9th question is, what is your best palette for travel? And to me, it's this one. This is the MUA Elysium palette. And if you look at these colors, you know why I love this one. This is a dupe for the Naked 3. And since that's one of my all-time favorite palettes, I don't want to travel with that because A, I don't want it to break. And 2, it's also very bulky. But this has the exact same shades. It's €5, so it's very cheap. So if it breaks, I wouldn't mind it all that much. And it has very sleek, compact packaging. And then the last question, it's going to end a little bit on a negative note, because the last question is which palette you wouldn't recommend. And I've got 2 for you. That's these 2. I would not recommend these 2 palettes because either the quality isn't there or it's just a little bit too gimmicky. So I'll first talk you through this. This is the Maybelline, the Blushed Nudes palette. I don't think anybody really loves Maybelline for their eyeshadow palettes. There's only one shade in here that I truly like. Other than that, I don't think the quality is necessarily here. These blend together and it's just not my favorite. The other palette I want to show you, this is the Makeup Revolution Flawless palette. Makeup Revolution does these palettes where you have 32 pans, they have a ton of these, and at first sight you're like, wow, these are great. And these are great, especially if you're starting out with makeup and you don't have that much yet. These are great palettes, the quality is there. There's only one major problem with these. You don't get 32 different shades. You get 32 pans, but some of these shades apply exactly the same onto your eyes. And that is my biggest gripe about this, especially the shades right here on this side. They just go on the same. There are a couple of really pretty taupes in this corner, which again, all go on the same. I kept this around mainly for the shades right here in the middle, but again, I have shades like that in other palettes. So at the end of the day, I feel that this just isn't very unique. And even though the quality is great, especially for the price point, again, this is like €10 or something. So it's a great palette for the price, but I don't think you get 32 shades in this palette, which is a bit of a meh. So those were all of the palettes I would recommend to you, or I would not recommend to you, given that last question. I really hope this was useful for you, because this will give you an idea of the things I like for my skin tone, my eye color, all that. And yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe, because I make new videos every single Sunday. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!